Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Point Forward podcast. My name is JR Radcliffe, joined as always by my colleague at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Jim Owczarski. We're talking Milwaukee Bucks. Been a couple weeks. I was on vacation, so we took a step back, and the Milwaukee Bucks are kind of, I don't know, right where they were when we left them, which is doing okay, winning some, losing some. Pretty big concern right now, though, Jim, that we're going to talk about right at the outset, and that is what is going on with Damian Lillard. You wrote about that at jsonline.com. He's got a calf injury. Calf injuries cause people like me to twitch a little bit. The Bucks fans have been through calf injuries. And I think it's so easy to have gone through this season and been like, you know what, this season is what it is, a little bit of a roller coaster. Doesn't matter because in the postseason, they just need to be healthy. Get their stars healthy. See what you've got. You have not had a healthy postseason really since they won the title. Even that wasn't healthy. Was not a healthy postseason, but they have not had that. And now there's some serious concern they might not have it again. Give me your thoughts on the Damian Lillard situation, the injury, where it's at, what he has been saying about it, the whole rigmarole.
Yeah, so JR, it's so we got to rewind it back a little bit because while it is now a calf injury, he's been effectively listed with a lower body injury or soreness since the Pacers game back on March 11th. Or going into that game, I should say. And so he played 5 games with what was called groin soreness, right groin soreness. And he clearly was not right in the moment and then even in retrospect. So under 20 points per game, he was shooting just 35% from 3, just 37% from the field overall. Like numbers just cratered. After popping up with this muscle soreness. And not coincidentally, the Bucks 2-3 in those games. And then it was after the game in Golden State, disappointing loss. Team didn't score 100 points. He didn't play well. Team didn't play well. We go to LA, JR, and the injury changes to calf soreness, but he's questionable. And we're talking to Doc, and he's like, I don't know. And then, we through shoot around, doesn't participate, ruled out for the game in LA. And then he goes home to Portland, misses the game in Sacramento. He's ruled out immediately. And what's interesting there, JR, is the injury is clarified to a soleus soreness. And as Bucks fans know, Bucks fans became very familiar with the soleus muscle in the calf last year with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Don't want to hear what soleus is anymore. We're done with it.
Yeah, and the reason that sort of mattered, JR, is Damian Lillard was a go-to source for this because he had strained a soleus the year before in that right calf in Portland and had missed several weeks with that. And it basically was a result of him kind of straining a calf in general, trying to come back too soon, whatever. So we get to Phoenix. And now the injury reporting rules, JR, and this was to sort of help teams, the public, get around like this soreness thing. Remember a couple years ago, JR, like Brook Lopez had back soreness for like 4 months, and then he had surgery.
Yeah.
So the league was like, we can't do this anymore. Like there needs to be a specific injury. And so you're allowed like a few days basically to determine the injury. So heading into Phoenix, soleus is no longer on the injury report, but now it is a calf strain. Okay. Right calf. And Dame has had issues with this. He strained the Achilles last year, last game of the regular season. We know obviously that hobbled him for the playoffs. He has strained that calf we mentioned in the soleus muscle within it. 2 years ago in Portland, he strained this calf actually, JR, earlier this season and missed a few games. And actually, it coincided with him getting sick. So he ended up missing more games because of that really bad respiratory illness. And it just sort of allowed more time for that calf to heal. So this has been clearly a recurring issue for him for now 3 years. Not great, right? With just 10 games now left in the regular season. Doc Rivers has been insisting this is day to day. It doesn't feel day-to-day, JR, because I feel like day-to-day would be doubtful or questionable at shoot around and move to out or something like that. Like he's just been out.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Rivers acknowledged that Dame has had some imaging on that calf. And pregame in Phoenix, it was, we don't know what that imaging says, which, I mean, I'm not sure about that. So we catch Dame post-game, JR, and I'm not going to be a body language tonal expert here, but having been around him for a year and a half, having spoken to him about the Achilles, about a calf, about an oblique, about the hamstring strain at the All-Star break, like he's usually pretty out there. Like he will tell you when he did the thing, what it feels like, just his overall, I don't know, confidence in a return. And there was none of that in Phoenix, JR. He was very firm and I don't want to say angry, but he said he's frustrated. It sounded like he's frustrated with what this is. He acknowledged the imaging has been done. And he too was like, I don't know enough yet to say anything. And so I'm not going to read into that. I don't know what imaging looks like. There's definitely different muscles and tendons in the calf down to the Achilles, obviously. So it just sounded like either they know what's up and they just aren't ready to make a determination on, the public announcement of what it is, or they're still truly trying to figure out where the pain is, where the soreness is. What does that mean? And now, and really, I just asked him, JR, like, hey, look, the playoffs, the first round of the playoffs wouldn't start till April 19th, maybe April 20th. Mm-hmm. That's several weeks. I was kind of like, whatever this is, can you get healthy? Can you get well? And all he said, JR, was when it gets to that point, meaning the playoffs, he just wants to be healthy. So even Dame, who is broadly defiant and confident and, willing to sort of play through anything or do anything, didn't say like, oh, I'll be back in a week. I'll be back in 10 days. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it truly is day-to-day, JR, and he'll pop up as questionable or probable tomorrow in Denver. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it's like it's a strain and Damian Lillard is, will be reevaluated in 2 weeks, planned as play for the playoffs. Like, I know that was a lot there, but I feel it was important to sort of show the progress or I guess the regression of his health in the last month. And now they're in this window, JR, of like, okay, if it's a bad calf strain, like maybe there's enough time to get him kind of healthy or healthy-ish. Because look, Giannis missed from February 5th to the 20th with his calf strain. And not all guys are the same. Not all calves are the same. But if the whole point of everything they do and have done at the trade deadline is those two guys being at peak shape, JR, I mean, I think there should be some thought to maybe he needs to be shut down for whatever period of time to make sure those two guys are good to go come April 19-20.
Yeah. Jim, I'm down bad. This is feeding into my pessimistic impulses. And now let's game it out because the regular season is not important. They're going to the playoffs. I still think they're going to wind up in the 6th seed. I believe that the Pistons will catch them. I do not believe the Atlanta Hawks will catch them. I think they are a top 6 team. Can this team, we have seen this team with Giannis. Giannis has taken over games when possible. When he's in the game, he is still taking over games. And the Bucks have done okay. They won a couple games. I never know how to evaluate some of these games because I feel like there's a star player for the other team missing every night now. It's just sort of I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody cares about what's left of the regular season across the NBA. I think it's just get to the playoffs healthy. If Damian Lillard cannot go in that first series, because after that, I think we can all believe, we all know that it's curtains if he's not healthy after that. Can they do this with just Giannis in a first series? Because if they are the 6th seed, that would mean the Knicks. If they're the 5 seed, it would mean probably the Pacers, maybe the Pistons. We've talked about the Knicks before as a not ideal matchup, even if they're healthy. Can they soldier on to the point that they can get Damian Lillard fully healthy, or will they need him immediately in the playoffs to survive?
No, I mean, I think they need him immediately, JR. I mean, this team, they did what they did at the trade deadline to, as John Horst said, and Doc Rivers, to maximize the two-man game. And, no disrespect to Kyle Kuzma or Brook Lopez, who's been just phenomenal
Oh my God.
since the All-Star break.
Hang his jersey from the Raptors, man.
Brook's been their second best player for a lot of games here at 37. Like, that's not sustainable. It's just not. Like, no. Especially what you ask him to do on both ends of the court. To ask him to be a 20-point-a-game scorer, along with a guy who's cleaning up messes and anchoring a defense. This team can't score even with Damian Lillard, JR. And so I don't know how you play the Indiana Pacers and that style and expect that your defense is going to be like amazing enough to outscore. You know what I mean? Like, Giannis might average 45 because the Pacers are like, let that dude do whatever, because all these other guys aren't going to do anything. In our view, like, if it'd be like when the Bucks played the Lakers, at home at Fiserv, JR, and it was just Luka Doncic. Like, Luka was on his way to 50-plus points, but the Lakers were never in that game. No. So no, they need Dame. Now it's interesting you bring up just sort of seeding and standings. Like, the Pacers are on a hot streak. They've won 5 in a row. I think 8 of 9, crazy fashion. We can call their wins fluky, including that Bucks win, where Halliburton hits that fall away 3, but it doesn't matter, Jay. Like, they're winning games. And, they're 3 games behind the Knicks, 10 to play. It's probably a little, the Knicks are skidding without Jalen Brunson. Maybe the Bucks can get them at home. Without Brunson, that would be a feel-good win for the Bucks, honestly, if they could do that. But look, JR, they've got to stay out of the 6. To me, I think they're one and done if they play the Knicks in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything like the 2 games they played in New York earlier in the year. The Bucks were boat raced. Mm-hmm. And while the Bucks would say rightfully they're competing harder than they did back then, famously in New York, JR, that was the Giannis, we must compete harder. They are competing harder. Their defense has been very good, statistically, very good, for a while now. But the Knicks have a awesome offense, one of the best in basketball. And if Giannis has to score 40 a game or 35 a game and also defend Karl Anthony Towns for 40 minutes, like, that's not going to work, JR. Like, and the Brook and Bobby will play in those games, but that's not a great matchup for those guys. And so Giannis at the 5 again and trying to rebound, like, that's not a good matchup. They need to stay out of the 6. They need to avoid the Knicks without a doubt. And that means they are going to have to win some of these games, JR. Like, look, I don't – maybe they'll surprise everyone and beat Denver as we record this. I mean, Brook played 41 minutes in Phoenix. Giannis played 38. They lose. I don't see how they have anything in the tank for the altitude of Denver. I really don't. So you're looking at 3 games at home: Knicks, Hawks, Suns. Knicks without Brunson. The Hawks are bad. The Suns, they could have won in Phoenix. So I could see them beating the Suns. Then you got tanking 76ers. You got brutal Heat, tanking Pelicans twice. So there's, before they end the year with the Pistons, home and home. So, JR, I do feel like there's a path there, even without Dame, to secure the 5 seed and stay away from the New York Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. And then you get to the postseason with Dame. Yeah, they could beat the Pacers. I think it'd be a 6-game series. You'd always pick they beat the Pacers 3-1, right? This year. So I think that's a thing that then you take your chances in the second round with Cleveland, right? So that's, again, a long-winded way to say I think they need Damian Lillard to do anything in the playoffs. I think they can get to the 5 seed without Dame. And maybe they get to the 4. Maybe they rip off, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, 6 in a row. They could rip off 6 in a row, JR, before playing the Timberwolves. And, maybe the Pacers cool off, right? So I think 4-5 is still doable, even if Dame is out. Of course, as long as Giannis is healthy.
That's some pretty good optimism from you. They could rip off 6 in a row, of course. Like, yeah, all right. I just like I want that though, because I'm the whole point of trading Chris Middleton. There were probably many points, but get younger, stay healthier, find guys that work around Dame and Giannis. Don't just have 3 stars. Have a system that works for Dame and Giannis. Middleton, by the way, having a great time in Washington. The Wizards are winning way more games than I'm sure the Wizards want to win for their draft consideration. But you moved on from Chris knowing that there was some injury history there, and that just hinged on Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo staying healthy the rest of the way. And then you can see what we have seen flashes from this team, and you cling to those, and you think, just get them into the playoffs when everybody is really at max velocity, and you're going to see that this team is actually capable. I'm still holding out hope that somewhere in there is a team actually capable of winning an NBA championship, or at least getting to the finals. And, a discouraged Damian Lillard talking about his calf has me thinking, like, what was I holding on to? And it's unlikely anyway. But I don't know, man. I'm feeling down about it. Feeling really, really down about it. I don't know. I don't know if there's more to say or more.
Yeah, I mean, look, offense has been a real struggle, JR. I mean, which has to be disappointing for all involved, because this goes back to the acquisition of Damian Lillard. The reason they traded for him was because even in the championship run, offense was just a slog, right? Like that finals run, Chris and Giannis did their thing, but it took some work, right? And they needed help from other guys. And then, of course, we know Chris gets hurt against Boston. We don't need to relitigate all that. But with those injuries, like, Drew wasn't a guy who could give you that, right? Brooks doing other things. So it was a lean into that Nuggets model of top 5 offense. Let's just maybe play top 10 defense in the playoffs. The Bucks have figured out the defensive part, right? Like, they have played top 10 level defense and shown the ability to really lock it down in moments. And you're like, wow, okay, there's that. However, JR, the offense is brutal. Like, they have had so many 20-point and under quarters. They have not scored 50 points and a half 3 of the last 5 games, I think. And that's with Dame and Giannis. And Giannis playing all 12 minutes of a quarter. And statistically speaking, they are either the second or third best 3-point shooting team in the league. But yet they don't shoot so many threes that the math works out. Like, they probably need to shoot 39 threes and maybe make just a couple percentage points less, right, to score more points. So and that has yet to be figured out. And now that would be, I say, the tough thing, JR, if Dame is out for an extended period of time, along with Bobby still being out. There's really no way to figure that out.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's as simple as they out-talent, teams in the playoffs, because Dame and Giannis are truly healthy and ready to go. But yeah, they just, whatever the motivation was, as you said, JR, basketball-wise at the trade deadline, I mean, so many times we've watched them since then, like, oh, if only they had someone who could go get a bucket. If only they had someone who could tell everyone where to be and facilitate. And, what about Giannis getting a dunk on an inbound pass or pick and roll? Because that has gone away. That is no longer anything they can do. So, they've traded those points, JR, for the theory of something, and so far the theory of something has yet to be proven.
Let's take a quick spin through the rest of the roster if there's anything else that you want to point out. We know Jericho Sims is banged up with the finger injury that, the surgery on the table there. So that's something to note. AJ Green is really struggling lately. I mean, is there any stray observations, random observations? To me, it does come down to what's Giannis and Dame doing, because we're at that point of the season. But anything else that strikes you right now?
I mean, I mentioned it sort of in passing, but since let's go all the way back to the trade deadline, JR, like Brook Lopez has been just phenomenal, and I don't think it's a coincidence that in games that the Bucks have really looked bad in. So let's think of the 2-point loss to Orlando at home. Brook scores 8 points. The blowout loss to the Cavs at home. Brook scores 7 points. The bad loss to the Thunder at home. Brook scores 8 points. Like, since the trade deadline, he's averaging 14.5 a game, shooting 37% from three, 55% overall. Like, he is playing offensive basketball, JR. Like since Dame got hurt. I mentioned his poor numbers since that Pacers game, JR. There's Brook Lopez averaging 17 points a game and shooting 45% from three since March 11th. He has been their second best offensive player for a month, and that's like great. That is a credit to Brook Lopez. It's a credit to a degree to the offense, like finding him as he's rolling harder to the rim more than he has done probably in years. I will maintain he's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we will see. He has played 35 minutes, 41 minutes. The last time that happened, JR, was when Bobby was out in January, and suddenly Brook had back soreness and his production dipped a little bit. So, we're going to see what they do with him to make sure he's good to go for the postseason. So I want to highlight Brook Lopez. He deserves all those kudos.
And anecdotally, it feels like in a postseason series, we've seen examples where teams are able to calculate for Brook Lopez and figure him out. So I feel like, as great as he is, I love him. I don't think in the playoffs that's a weapon you can really rely on. You can't. You talk about what's unsustainable. That I feel like into a playoff series is unsustainable.
Yeah, and I mentioned it. The Knicks. If you want Brook on the court with the Knicks, he's probably on Josh Hart. Because again, Giannis has to guard Karl Anthony Towns, and it's there's just some issues there because obviously Josh Hart is a small, active guy, and you want Brook around. Like, it's just the Pacers. I think we've seen enough of the Pacers, JR, and enough of the Pistons, for instance. Like, Brook can play, right? Obviously the Cavs, that's a Brook Lopez matchup, clearly. It's really the Knicks Celtics that are the issue for Brook. But I think if you're the Bucks, you're like, please let us get to the Cavs and the Celtics to figure that out. Conversely, Kyle Kuzma, the Doc Rivers has admitted they're kind of in between on what to do with Kyle. He's shooting 29% from three, 42% overall, 67% from the free throw line since he's been here. Not great numbers. I mean, he is not typically an efficient shooter. He's had way more wide open looks in Milwaukee because that's what happens. He doesn't really make those because he's not a catch and shoot kind of guy. Some teams like Oklahoma City and Golden State are like, we are going to put our 7-footer. We were just talking about with Brook on Josh Hart. We're going to put our 7-footer on Kyle because, we want a small on Brook. So when they pick and roll with Dame, it's small on small. Like, there's no advantage there for the Bucks. Kyle likes to put the ball on the deck and drive. Oh, there's a 7-footer on him. What's he going to do? Drive into a 7-footer? Like, he's not an efficient finisher like a Giannis. So, and now without Bobby and Jericho, Kyle is a big. And while he is big, he is 6'10". He has a 7-foot wingspan. He's like not a big. Kyle as a rim protector, as a like ferocious rebounder. Yes, he gets rebounds. 6.5 a game. I think he's had a couple double doubles, JR. But like we've all watched it. Like he's not exactly just grabbing all of them, right? So, I mean, he's been put in a weird spot with the injuries or the injury to Jericho, the suspension for Portis. So he's been maybe out of position, if you will. But like his small ball lineups with Giannis haven't been great. So I would say if Dame's going to be out, I don't know. They need to work something, I guess, with Kyle and Giannis to figure out how those two can better work. Like the whole reason, again, that they traded for him was to maximize. And I realize you're missing Dame. But maybe in this 2 weeks, JR, 2.5 weeks, they can find something, that he's comfortable with, that they're feel good about. And I don't know if that's a set or calls per se, but just maybe different movement patterns, positioning him different for more comfortable cutting lanes, things of that nature. So I would say Brook is a great positive. Kyle is, I don't want to call him a negative because he has helped them win some games, JR. His defense, I think, has been way better than anyone has imagined, right? He's been a big part of why they are playing such great defense. So that's been really good. They do need some offense. So I think that's the next thing to watch for is how can they get him in positive positions to maybe be a more effective offensive player, especially if Lillard's out.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, are you familiar with Awful Announcing? You are, right? The site on. Yes.
Yeah, I am.
One of my favorite things. And Jim Owczarski, you were featured a little bit in an Awful Announcing post from this game against the Suns that came down to the wire. Devin Booker hitting a game-winning shot late in the game that tipped the scales in that one. But Coach Mike Budenholzer up against the Bucks for the first time since he was unceremoniously let go, since he was honestly done dirty by the Milwaukee Bucks in retrospect. I think Budenholzer won that one, but all the weirder then that he would not take questions from the delegation of Bucks reporters in that game. Now the Bucks, or the Suns, I should say, will be coming to Pfizer Forum shortly here, so we might hear differently. But that surprised me, Jim. Mike Budenholzer, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't say anything anyway. He's like a cliche guy who starts every sentence with "yeah, no." I don't know what he would say other than "yeah, no." We're just focused on the present or whatever. He actually did say that when asked by one of the Suns reporters, but. Jim, I don't know, man. I don't love that. I don't love that from Coach Bud. I'm generally supportive of his plight. I feel like he's a championship coach, and he got. I think maybe they were a little aggressive in letting him go, but dang, Jim, you're famous though. That's the important thing. Is you are famous. I love that. I love that for you.
I enjoy being famous among our loyal JS listeners, watchers, viewers, and readers. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one of those impossible situations. I don't know if Mike was like specifically, I don't want to answer any questions from anyone in Milwaukee who came here. It seems unlike him.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, in 5 years or 4 years, whatever I was covering him with the Bucks, I don't ever recall Bucks PR not allowing visiting media to ask him questions. Then again, it wasn't that first year after he got fired in Atlanta and, whatever. But the way it played out was just, you raise your hand for Mike to ask questions. And frankly, the mic was never given to me and I was ignored. And then when I kind of looked at the person running the room, they just, give me one of these, like we're cutting it short. So, whatever. But all I'll say this, JR, is Mike Budenholzer, yes, does not like to do media.
No, he does not.
However, I, in many years covering him, from the highest of highs to what ended up being the lowest of lows, he answered every question.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't like what he said, but he answered every question and, was there and never ducked anything from the most important type of things with this team and social justice and cultural issues and things of that nature to, Giannis not being put on Jimmy Butler. Right. So I don't know. It was a weird scenario. We'll see. He'll be back in Milwaukee in a week. Maybe he wanted to save it all up for the home, the the home crowd. So we'll see.
I mean, the Suns are not having a good year, so I don't know if coming out ahead is exactly what we'd say for him, but I don't know if proven right is even what he would say. I think there's still an argument that it was all the right move. It just, I wouldn't be down about the situation if I were Mike Budenholzer. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. He is Jim Owczarski. Find everything he has at jsonline.com. He will be closely following the Damian Lillard injury situation that we've been talking about. The Bucks, 11 more games here before the end of the season. They'll be back after this 5-game road trip about to wrap up in Denver on Wednesday night. Then they come back home. You can see the Suns soon if you're interested, watching Kevin Durant, Mike Budenholzer in action. That'll be coming up shortly, and the playoffs are right around the corner. So, Jim, thank you for joining me yet again. We'll be talking again very soon. Take care.
Sounds good. Thanks.